Stop what you're doing for just 1 second and listen. Do you hear that? That faint, high-pitched whistle? That steady hiss, like steam escaping from a pipe that nobody else in the room can hear. Or maybe it's a low hum, like a refrigerator running somewhere deep inside your skull. It visits you when the house goes quiet at night. It's there when you wake up at 3 in the morning. And no matter how many doctors you've seen, no matter how many tests have come back normal, that sound refuses to leave. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something right now. You are not imagining it. You are not losing your mind. And you are absolutely not alone. Millions of people over the age of 60 carry this invisible noise with them every single day. It makes it hard to focus, hard to sleep, hard to sit and enjoy a quiet conversation with the people you love most. And most of the time, what do doctors say? They say it's just part of getting older. They hand you a brochure for a white noise machine and tell you to learn to live with it. But I'm here to tell you today that ringing is not something you simply have to accept. That sound is a distress signal, a biological alarm. Your body is trying to tell you something very specific. And once you understand what it's saying, you can finally begin to answer it. Because here is what most doctors are not telling you. For millions of seniors, that ringing is not just an ear problem. It is a nutritional crisis happening at the cellular level. Your auditory nerves are being starved of the very fuel they need to function. And until we address that hunger, the noise will never stop. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what your body is running out of, which foods can help you get it back, and one simple habit you can start tonight that could begin to quiet that noise from the inside out. I'm Dr. Sarah Ellison, and I've spent over a decade as a practicing cardiologist, working with seniors who are dealing with exactly these kinds of hidden connections, the ones between your heart, your blood vessels, your nerves, and yes, your ears. Because here is what I've learned after more than 10 years of clinical practice. These systems are not separate. They are one. And when one part of the system starts to break down, the others feel it too. Let me tell you about a patient of mine, Margaret, 71 years old, retired school teacher. She came to see me originally about her blood pressure. But almost as an afterthought, near the end of our appointment, she mentioned that her ears had been ringing constantly for nearly 4 years. She said, "Dr. Ellison, I've just accepted it. Everyone tells me it's my age." I looked at her chart and something immediately caught my attention. Keep Margaret in mind, because by the end of this video, I want to tell you what we found and what happened next. But first, to understand why the ringing won't stop, we need to understand what's actually happening inside your ear. Deep inside your inner ear, there is a tiny snail-shaped organ called the cochlea, and inside that cochlea are thousands of microscopic hair cells. Think of them like a beautiful field of tall grass. When a sound wave enters your ear, it's like a gentle breeze moving across that field. The grass bends, and as it bends, it sends a precise electrical signal up through your auditory nerve to your brain that says, "That's a bird outside. That's your granddaughter's voice. That's music." But here is where things go wrong for so many people over 60. As we age, especially if our body is missing specific nutrients, that grass starts to change. Some of it gets damaged. Some of it stays bent and never stands back up. And when those tiny hair cells are damaged or struggling, they don't simply go silent. They start leaking electricity. They send phantom signals to the brain even when the room is completely quiet. That phantom signal is the ringing you hear. But here's the part that most people never get told. The ringing isn't only happening in your ear, it's happening in your brain's hearing center. When those hair cells send weak or erratic signals, your brain does something almost instinctive. It turns up the volume on its own internal hearing circuit. It's searching for a signal that isn't there, and in doing so, it creates its own noise. That high-pitched whistle, that persistent hiss. Doctors call this central gain, but what it really means is that your brain is trying too hard to hear, and it's creating static in the process. Now, why does this happen more as we age? Because those hair cells and the nerves that carry their signals are some of the most energy-hungry cells in your entire body. They require a constant supply of oxygen, specific vitamins, and precise minerals to keep functioning. If blood isn't flowing cleanly to those tiny vessels, or if you are missing the nutrients that protect and insulate those nerves, the system breaks down. The static begins. So let's talk about the first thing your ears might be starving for: vitamin B12, the insulation your nerves desperately need. Now, I want you to picture an electrical cord. Inside that cord, there are copper wires carrying electricity, and on the outside, there is a layer of rubber insulation. That coating is not decorative. It is critical. It keeps the electricity moving in the right direction and prevents it from leaking out. Your nerves work in exactly the same way. They have a protective coating called the myelin sheath, and the primary building block for that coating is vitamin B12. When your B12 levels drop, that protective coating begins to thin. The nerve starts to fray. And when a frayed nerve in your inner ear sparks and short circuits, your brain doesn't experience silence. It experiences a buzz, a hiss, a ringing that seems to come from nowhere. Now, as a cardiologist, I see this pattern constantly. The same myelin damage I warn my cardiac patients about, the kind that disrupts electrical signals in the heart, is happening in parallel to the auditory nerve. It is the same mechanism, and in both cases, the body is sending a signal that says the insulation is wearing thin. Clinical studies have consistently found a significant connection between low B12 levels and chronic tinnitus. In several trials, when patients corrected their B12 deficiency, many reported that the volume and intensity of the ringing meaningfully decreased. The wire was being re-insulated. The short circuits were quieting down. But here is the critical piece that most doctors overlook. You might think, I eat meat, I eat eggs, surely I'm not deficient. And here is the truth. As we cross the age of 60, our stomachs naturally produce less hydrochloric acid, and we need that acid to unlock B12 from the food we eat. Without it, the vitamin simply passes through your system without being absorbed. You could be sitting down to a perfectly healthy meal and still be starving your nerves because your stomach no longer has the tools to extract what it needs. And it gets more complicated. Many common medications that seniors take every single day, proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, metformin for blood sugar, are known to significantly block B12 absorption. If you are on either of those medications and your ears are ringing, this connection deserves your full attention. So what do? Start with food. Sardines and clams are among the richest sources of B12 on the planet. A single serving can provide several days' worth of what your nerves need. Wild-caught salmon, organic eggs, and lean beef are also excellent options. But because absorption is the real challenge for our age group, I want you to ask your doctor specifically for a serum B12 blood test at your next visit. If your levels are low, ask about a sublingual supplement, a small tablet that dissolves under your tongue and bypasses the stomach entirely, going straight into your bloodstream where it can finally reach the nerve. Margaret's B12 came back at the very low end of the range. Her doctor had looked at it and checked the box. I looked at it and saw a nerve that had been slowly losing its insulation for years. But B12 is only the first piece, because even if your wires are well insulated, there's another problem that can keep the volume stuck at maximum. And it comes down to a mineral most people are chronically low in without ever knowing it: magnesium, the brake pedal your nervous system is missing. Inside your inner ear, there is a chemical called glutamate. Its job is to excite your nerves so they can send sound signals up to the brain. Think of it as the gas pedal of your auditory system. When a sound comes in, glutamate steps on that pedal. The nerve fires. The signal travels. You hear. But here is the problem. What happens when there is no brake pedal? When your magnesium levels are low, your nerves lose their ability to calm down after firing. The gas pedal gets stuck. The auditory nerve stays in a state of constant high alert, firing over and over even when there is no sound coming in. Doctors call this excitotoxicity. What it feels like to you is a ringing that gets louder when you're stressed, worse after a long day, and absolutely unbearable at 3 in the morning when you just want to sleep. That is not a coincidence. Stress depletes magnesium rapidly, and as magnesium drops, the brake pedal disappears. The nerve fires harder. The ringing screams louder. It becomes a cycle that feeds itself. Now, as a cardiologist, magnesium is one of the very first things I evaluate in every single patient I see, because magnesium doesn't just control nerve excitability, it controls the health and flexibility of your blood vessels. And this is where the ear connection becomes deeply important. The blood vessels that supply your inner ear are almost incomprehensibly small, thinner than a human hair. Blood cells have to pass through them in a single file. When your magnesium is low, those vessel walls become stiff and narrow. Blood flow to the inner ear drops. Oxygen delivery to those already struggling hair cells falls even further. It's like trying to water a garden through a kinked hose. The plants are dying, not because there's no water, but because nothing can get through. When the inner ear doesn't receive enough oxygen, it screams for help. And that scream is the ringing you hear in the silence of the night. The good news? Magnesium is one of the most accessible minerals to restore through food. A handful of raw pumpkin seeds every day is one of the simplest and most powerful things you can do for your ears. Dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard are excellent. And yes, a small square of dark chocolate, at least 70% cocoa, is actually a genuinely good source of magnesium. I tell my patients this, and they look at me like I've given them permission they've been waiting for their whole lives. One important warning for my friends who are on blood pressure medications or diuretics: those medications are known magnesium depleting drugs. If you are taking them and your ears are ringing and you're having leg cramps at night or struggling to fall asleep, your body is giving you a very consistent message. The magnesium reservoir is empty. Talk to your doctor about this directly. But we're not done yet, because there is a third mineral, one found in higher concentration inside your inner ear than anywhere else in your body, that acts as the final line of defense for your hearing. And most people have never once thought to check it. Zinc, the protective shield your inner ear is losing. Scientists have discovered something remarkable about the inner ear. It contains the highest concentration of zinc in your entire human body, and it is not there by accident. Zinc is your ear's maintenance crew. It acts as a powerful antioxidant shield, protecting those delicate hair cells from oxidative stress, which is essentially the cellular wear and tear that accumulates as we age. Without sufficient zinc, those hair cells become fragile. They break down faster. They start sending glitched, erratic signals to the brain. And you already know what that sounds like. Multiple clinical trials have shown that in older adults with chronic tinnitus, restoring zinc levels led to a meaningful reduction in the intensity of the ringing. The maintenance crew had come back. The damage was being repaired. Here is a connection that I find particularly important for seniors. Your ears and your immune system share the same zinc reserves. Have you ever noticed that your ears ring louder when you have a cold, a sinus infection, or when your body is fighting something off? That is not random. That is your immune system pulling zinc away from your inner ear to fight the infection. Your ears are left unprotected. The shield goes down, and the ringing volume goes up. If you find yourself catching every cold that comes around this season and your ears are ringing, your body is sending you a very direct message. The zinc reservoir is depleted. The best food source of zinc on the planet, and this might surprise you, is oysters. Just 1 or 2 oysters can meet your entire daily zinc requirement. If oysters aren't your thing, pumpkin seeds are again a wonderful option. And notice that pumpkin seeds give you both magnesium and zinc, which makes them genuinely one of the most powerful foods you can eat for ear health. Chickpeas, cashews, and lean beef are also excellent choices. One word of caution here: zinc is a powerful mineral, and more is not always better. High-dose zinc supplements taken without guidance can actually push out copper, another essential mineral your body needs. Food first, always. And if you do want to supplement, please have a conversation with your doctor first. Now, here is the part that most videos on this topic never discuss. And as a cardiologist, this is the piece I feel most compelled to share with you. Because you could correct your B12, your magnesium, and your zinc and still not experience the full relief you deserve if this fourth factor is working against you. I want you to picture those tiny blood vessels feeding your inner ear. Vessels so small that blood cells line up in single file to pass through them. Now imagine that the blood moving through those vessels is not clean and fluid. Imagine it is thick, sticky, moving like slow syrup through a narrow pipe. When blood sugar is elevated, or more importantly, when insulin levels are consistently high, it causes inflammation inside those microscopic vessels. The walls thicken, the pipes narrow, and even if your body has all the B12, magnesium, and zinc it needs, those nutrients cannot reach the auditory nerve. A starving nerve is a noisy nerve. Here is the most important thing I will say today. You do not have to be diabetic for this to be your problem. Research has found that a significant number of people with chronic tinnitus have a condition called hyperinsulinemia, meaning their insulin is chronically elevated even when their blood sugar appears normal on a standard test. Their body is working so hard to keep blood sugar stable that the constant flood of insulin is inflaming the delicate vessels that feed the ear. When people in these studies reduced their insulin through dietary changes, many reported that the hissing and ringing significantly softened. The pipes were clearing. The nutrients were finally getting through. So what is the single most effective habit you can build right now to address this? It is almost embarrassingly simple. Take a 10-minute walk after your largest meal of the day. That's it. When you walk after eating, your muscles absorb blood sugar directly. Your pancreas does not have to release as much insulin to manage it. The inflammation in those tiny vessels begins to ease, and the nutritional rescue team, the B12, the magnesium, the zinc, finally has a clear path to reach the cells that have been starving for them. So let's bring this all together. If your ears are ringing, here is what I want you to do. First, check your insulation. Ask your doctor specifically to test your B12 level at your next visit. If you are over 60 and on a PPI or metformin, consider this urgent. Your auditory nerve may be slowly losing its protective coating, and a simple sublingual supplement could begin the repair process. Second, restore your brake pedal. Start incorporating magnesium-rich foods into your daily routine. A handful of pumpkin seeds, a serving of spinach, a small square of dark chocolate. These are not complicated changes. They are small, consistent deposits into a reservoir that your ears desperately need. Third, rebuild your shield. Add zinc-rich foods to your weekly meals. Oysters, pumpkin seeds, chickpeas. And if you are catching every illness that goes around, treat this as a priority. Your immune system is draining the very mineral your ears depend on. And tonight, I want you to make what I call Dr. Sarah's auditory recovery plate. A piece of wild-caught baked salmon for your B12, your D3, and your omega-3s. A generous bed of baby spinach for magnesium. A handful of raw pumpkin seeds for zinc and magnesium together, dressed with olive oil, fresh lemon, and a small amount of fresh grated ginger to support healthy circulation. That single meal delivers a significant biological payload of nearly everything your ears have been asking for. Do not expect a miracle in 24 hours. Your nerves took years to reach this point. Give them weeks to recover. In my clinical experience, the patients who are most consistent with these changes begin to notice the first meaningful reduction in volume somewhere between week 3 and week 6. Not silence overnight, but the noise moving further away, becoming less intrusive, less present. Margaret came back to see me after 8 weeks. She sat down, and before I even asked, she said, "Dr. Ellison, it's quieter. Not gone, but quieter." She told me she had slept through the night twice that week for the first time in years. We had found low B12, borderline magnesium, and evidence of elevated fasting insulin in her labs. We had addressed all three, and her ears were finally beginning to hear what she had been waiting for: silence. That is why I do this work. Not just to manage numbers on a lab report, but to give people back the quiet moments they thought they had lost forever. If this video helped you today, please share it with someone you know who is living with that same invisible noise. Someone who has been told there is nothing that can be done. Because as we have seen today, there is plenty that can be done. The answers are often sitting right in your kitchen. And I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, how long have your ears been ringing? I read every single response, and your stories help shape the topics I bring to you next. I'm Dr. Sarah Ellison, and I'll see you in the next video.